and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kate, and today I'm going to be talking about the series that I'm planning on prioritizing in 2023. So originally, I planned on getting this list out in January. Some of these you've already seen me talk about either on a TBR or mentioned that I am partway through. So my apologies for being so slow in getting this list out. January just completely got away from me. So I am trying to catch up in February, which is a silly month to try and catch up in because it's the shortest one. But say the be, here we are. This is going to be a list of 10 series that I intend to start and attempt to finish in 2023. One of the things that I have realized recently is how many series that I have ongoing just from picking up the first book in a series for a book club read or a buddy read and then just never getting to the rest. So I'm very determined if I start these series, I am either going to finish them or I'm going to DNF them. And all of them are series that I own physically. So this is also a way for me to make my way through my physical TBR. So just with that sort of caveat, I will, as I go through, I will be telling you a little bit about each series, the books in the series, and then my targeted date for reading them. So if there are any of these that you are interested in and you want to do buddy reads with, definitely let me know. I am always open to more buddy reads, as you may know if you've seen either my January or February TBR. It is very difficult for me to say no to those. So without any further ado, the first book that is on my list is one that you have already seen me talking about, and that is the Teixcalaan series by Arkady Martine. This is a sci-fi political space opera series. I actually don't know if space opera is the right term for this, but it follows an ambassador who is from a sort of smaller mining station, and she ends up having to go to the center of this large empire and then ends up getting dragged into all kinds of stuff. I read the first book in this series in January, which is a memory called Empire. I am picking up the second book in this series in February, which is a Desolation called Peace. So with any luck, by March, this one will be checked off my list. And I will be doing a series review for this regardless of how I feel about that second book, but fingers crossed, I love it as much as I love the first one. The second series on my list is a much larger series, also sci-fi, and that is the Sun Eater series by Christopher Ruocchio. I am picking this one. I had already planned on prioritizing the series this year, and then luckily Angela over at Literature Science Alliance was doing a read-along of this series for her patrons. I am a patron, so I am very excited to be able to participate in that read-along. And we are starting with Empire of Silence in February. So the plan, I believe, is to read one every other month. So it will be Howling Dark in April, then Demon in White in June, Kingdoms of Death in August, and then Ashes of Man in October. And then I believe there's a sixth book out, but I don't know if that's coming out this year or next year. So we'll see if we end up finishing that. But if I just get caught up on this series in 2023, I'm also fine with that. Or DNF. Maybe I'll hate it. I have heard comparisons to Dune and to Name of the Wind. I know it is told with the main character already having gone through a lot of events in their lives, basically taking you back and telling you the story of their life. So it sounds very intriguing. Sounds like it'll have a lot of Roman references, so I am very curious to check this one out. Conveniently, the next series that's on my list is also sci-fi. I tried to have an even balance of sci-fi and fantasy, so you will be seeing some fantasy series in here. And that is the Escaping Exodus series by Nicky Drayden. I bought this after watching Angela praise this duology. I think it's just a duology for now. I don't know if there's plans to make it a larger series. All I basically know about it is that it follows a society that has basically harvested living creatures to serve as their ships. It really made me think there's an episode of why should I say that? That's kind of a spoiler. There's a TV show that this really reminded me of when I heard the synopsis for it. I don't want to say what it is because like it feels rude to have a spoiler because I don't think you know about it at the beginning of the episode. So anyway, the concept very much intrigued me. I am definitely excited to get to this one because it sounds like it could be doing some very interesting, bizarre things in a sort of space opera type story. So I was very, very intrigued by it, and I did want to get to more sci-fi this year. So the first book in that series is the same as the name of the series, Escaping Exodus. I am planning on picking that one up in March, and then I will pick up the sequel, Symbiosis, in April. So hopefully have that one checked off by mid-year. Another series that I am planning on picking up in March is the Greenbone Saga by Fonda. This is a super hyped fantasy series. I believe it's sort of in the urban fantasy realm where you are following a crime family who has sort of gained power using magical abilities related to jade. I've heard that it's sort of less of like a mafia crime family drama and more about sort of the larger implications for the world and a lot of societal stuff, which actually is more appealing to me than just a mafia crime drama, which is not always my shtick necessarily, but it sounds very intriguing. I'm definitely looking forward to trying it. I had put this one off mostly because people always talk about the emotional devastation of this series, and I was very concerned about that. So we'll see how it goes. But I am picking up Jade City in March, Jade War in, I think that's the right one, Jade War in April, and Jade Legacy in May. Normally I would give myself more time in between these books because of the emotional devastation part of it, but I know if I don't do them back to back, then it'll be just like Farseer and I won't continue with the series. So that's my plan. If anyone wants to buddy read that, even if it's a reread to encourage me not to chicken out, definitely let me know. Oh, and I forgot, actually, I will also be picking up Jade Setter of Janloon, which is the novella tie-in that just came out last year. And I'll pick that one up in June because I want to read it after I've read the main series. The next series on my list is one that I originally placed as a priority read because the third book was scheduled to come out this year. It is now looking like it will not come out until next year, but I've heard so much about this series that now I have to read it this year. I don't care if I end up rereading them next year if I can't remember enough details, which is something I try and avoid just because I have so many books on my TBR, but this one is really calling to me, and that is the Burning Kingdom series by Tasha Suri. This is Indian-inspired fantasy. I know it has elements of queer romance, a very intriguing magic system, and a lot more sort of political fantasy elements, which I used to avoid like the plague, but 2022 taught me that I can really enjoy political fantasy, and my love of the Teixcalaan series has taught me that it's not limited just to fantasy. So I'm very excited to get to Burning Kingdoms. I had actually loved the covers for these so much that I had previously bought both Jasmine Throne and Oleander's Sword based on the cover alone. So I'm going to pick up Jasmine Throne in June, and I am going to pick up Oleander's Sword in July, and then just wait along with everybody else for the third and final book in the series. But at least I'll be caught up on it. Similarly, another very hyped fantasy series that just really called to me and that I had to read. Thankfully, it does look like the third and final book in this series is going to be out this year, so I can get through this series at least. Unlike Burning Kingdoms, which I'm still bummed that the next book isn't coming out until next year, but I'll get over it. So, the one I'm talking about now, of course, is Rook and Rose by M.A. Carrick, which is actually an author duo. I know one of them is Marie Brennan, but I don't know the name of the other author, so I'll put them here. I know this one has sort of It's got a con artist at the center of the story who ends up trying to convince a noble family to accept her as part of the family so that she can get enough money to get her and her sister out of town and basically get them to a place of comfort, and then finds out that the family has no money. And so a lot of political elements, sort of heist style elements. It sounds super, super intriguing, so I'm very excited to get to this one. I am going to pick up the first book, The Mask of Mirrors, in June, Liar's Knot in July, and then in August, the third book in the series, Labyrinth's Heart, is supposed to be out, so assuming I like all of them, I will be finishing out the series in August. Then I have another sci-fi series, and I'm not actually sure how you're supposed to pronounce the name of this series. It's the Imperial Radch by Ann Leckie. This follows a ship who can also take the form of a person who ends up being betrayed, and it's basically its attempt to get revenge for what happened to it. I don't know if it's it or they for pronouns for that one, but it sounds very intriguing. I know it's supposed to be kind of more dense, not philosophical, but dense thematic storytelling, so I'm very curious to see how that goes. And so there's 3 books in the main series. Ancillary Justice I will pick up in July. Ancillary Sword I will pick up in August. And Ancillary Mercy I will pick up in September. There are 2 standalone novels that I may then pick up after that if I end up really liking the main trilogy, and that is Provenance, and then coming out in June of this year is Translation State. So I will see how that one goes, but if I do like it, I may try and pick up those standalones and finish out that sort of world series. Then, starting in August, I have a fantasy series that has been very hyped, that I am very excited to be picking up, and that is the Course of Dragons series by Jen Lyons. I know very little about the synopsis for this series, other than that it's supposed to be pretty snarky, it's supposed to be confusing on the level of something like Harrow the Ninth, so I'm really hoping that I will love it. It also apparently has footnotes, so that's actually not a turnoff for me. I could tend to enjoy when books do that, which I guess is maybe a weird thing to enjoy, but that's me for you, I guess. But I am definitely excited to get to that, so I'll be picking up, thankfully this is a finished series, so that makes that even easier, picking up Rune of Kings in August, The Name of All Things in September, The Memory of Souls in October, The House of Always in November, and then The Discord of Gods in December. So I had actually bought this whole series on Book Outlet prior to this year, so I will have no problems getting my hands on any of those books. I should stop buying entire series on even when I get it on sale, because that's just insane when I haven't even read the first book. But anyway, that's the plan for Course of Dragons. Then I have one that I'm a little shaky on because the first book in the series was actually a multiple-time DNF in 2022. I tried it for the first time in March, and then I tried it again later in the year with some other friends, and that is The Faithful and the Fallen by John Gwynne. When I originally heard about this book and I found out that the author is a historical reenactor, I was just certain that I would love it, and so I bought all 4 books in the series, and then I really struggled with the pace and the amount of names to remember in Malice, and so I'm determined to try again this year, and this will be the kicker. If I can't get into it this year, then I think I'm just going to unhaul the series, but I have really high hopes for this, because I feel like John Gwynne is one of those authors that I'll love once I get into him. I just have really struggled with Malice. So I will be picking up Malice for the 3rd time in September. Then I will pick up Valor in October. Is it Wrath? Yeah. Ruin in November, and then Wrath in December. So, fingers crossed, it ends up being a new favorite, despite the slow start for Malice. Alright, and my final series that I'm going to be talking about was actually on my TBR for January. I didn't get to it, and I think I'm gonna I decided to shift it to the end of the year just because I have so many other series I want to pick up at the start of this year, and this one is sort of a lower priority for me, so I won't be brokenhearted if I don't get to it, just because I have only heard one other person talk about this series, even though it has been on my TBR for a long time. Rambling aside, it is Eisenhorn by Dan Abnett. This is a Warhammer 40k series, originator of the grim dark descriptor. It follows an inquisitor who is tasked with rooting out heresy in this very dark, grim empire. And I've always thought it would be a very interesting book to read. I just had not ever gotten to it. I have the omnibus for the first 3 books in this series. I think Abnett has since come out with a 4th. So if I like the first 3, then I'll pick that one up. I'll be reading the first book, Xenos, in October, then Malleus in November, and Hereticus in December. So that is my new plan for Eisenhorn. So, that is the list of series that I am planning on prioritizing this year. I have set out dates for myself for getting to these, so I'm really hopeful that I can at least start and either finish the series or just DNF it and get it off of my shelves. So, this is part of my attempt to make 2023 the year that I tackle a larger portion of my physical TBR. So let me know if you have read any of these series. Definitely let me know if you are interested in buddy reading any of these, because that always helps me to stay motivated to get to them. And let me know of any series that you are planning on prioritizing in 2023. It's always fun to see what everybody is getting up to. And I will see you in the next one. Bye!